Succession planning in ministry is a crucial issue that is often unaddressed in many of our churches. Okay, picture this. An elderly pastor, revered and respected, yet clinging to leadership despite declining health and the changing landscape of ministry. The scenario plays out more often than we realize, and its consequences can be profound. In today's podcast, we'll explore why succession planning is not just about passing the torch, but about nurturing growth, embracing change, and ensuring the vitality of our churches for generations to come. Keep it locked right here. You're in the right place at the right time. Let's jump into this vital conversation and discover how embracing change can lead to more significant opportunities for innovation, relevance, and impact in our ministries. I certainly want to welcome you back to Life Word Podcast. I'm your host, Malachi Mitchell. And today, we want to dive deep into a topic that can shape our faith and our communities. And that's the importance of succession planning in ministry. This is key because we as a church, we as a ministry, we as an organization, we must embrace change for growth. In order to have growth, there has to be some change within our program, within our ministry, within our structure. Before I get into our podcast for today, I want to say a very, very heartfelt thank you to all of my listeners, those of you that watch the live recording, those that watch on Facebook, those that watch on YouTube, those that watch some of the clips that I put on TikTok, and especially those of you that listen to the podcast on audio. Because of you, because of your support, your following, your sharing, your subscribing, my podcast is now in over 40 different countries. And I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you that made that possible, because I couldn't have done that by myself. Now, with that being said, let's get into why we're here today. And that's to talk about the importance of succession planning in ministry. Stagnation in religious traditions and reluctant to embrace change can hinder spiritual growth and vitality within a community. I don't know if you understand that or not, or if you knew that or not, because holding on to outdated practices, outdated doctrines, or even outdated methodologies, primarily when they no longer serve their intended purpose or fail to resonate with contemporary needs. This can come at a significant cost. Not to say that you should water down the Word of God, because you shouldn't water down the Word of God just because there are contemporaries within our midst, or the trend is going contemporary. So what I want to do today, I want us to explore the consequences of clinging to old religious traditions without openness to innovation, along with the importance of recognizing when it's time, watch this, to step down, let go, or even retire. There are a lot of people that like to stay in their position as if it's a lifelong position, like the Supreme Court. That's a lifelong position. Once you get in that position, you can grant it, they're going to die in that position. I don't know of any Supreme Court judge that has ever been fired from that position or voted out of that position. That's a position. Most of them just die in that position. Well, the church should not be like that. Ministry should not be like that. Granted, once you are called into leadership, ministry, pastoring, any of those titles, and you have a position of dominance within that ministry, you should be willing at some point in your ministry when you're at the age to where you are not effective like you used to be when you were young. And this is why it's important for you as a leader to have succession planning within your ministry, someone that you can trust that can take over when you do step down or let go of the reins or even retire. Now, just because you retire doesn't mean that you're done per se. You can enjoy the remainder of your life traveling, vacationing, mentoring, being a consultant. There are so many other areas of leadership roles that you can take. So with that, let me give you 5 very important keys to what we're talking about here. Consequences of clinging to old religious traditions. The first one is lack of relevance. Failing to adapt to the changing needs and challenges of the present can lead to a loss of relevance for religious institutions. And when I say religious institution, that's a broad spectrum. And just as Jesus challenged the religious leaders of his time in Matthew 23:23 to embrace the spirit rather than the letter of the law. So what does it say? It says, "What sorrow awaits you teachers of religious law and you Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are careful to tithe even the tiniest income from your herb gardens, but you ignore the most important aspects of the law: justice, mercy, and faith." You should tithe. Did y'all catch that? Jesus said to the Pharisees, to the religious leaders, you should tithe. Yes, but do not neglect the more important things. A lack of relevance in church leadership can significantly hinder a congregation's growth and engagement. When church leaders fail to connect with contemporary issues or cultural shifts and the evolving needs of their community, they risk, or even you risk, becoming out of touch and ineffective. And we don't want to be out of touch with what's happening today in our communities. We don't want to be ineffective. This disconnection can manifest in outdated practices, messages that do not resonate with current societal challenges, and an inability to attract younger generations. People wonder why their churches are dying. It's because you don't have any young people left in your church. Either they're grown and gone, or they're grown and gone and they haven't been replaced. It's because in some cases, the churches have been in a dry season. There's no new anything. The program is the same, the music is the same, the people are the same, the leading is the same. There's no innovation. There's nothing that is exciting that the younger generation wants to be a part of. The messages need to change and evolve. It needs to evolve with the changing times. It's important because a lack of relevance often leads to diminished attendance, reduced participation in church activities, and also a general sense of apathy among the members. Now, let me help you here. To maintain your influence and foster spiritual growth. You as a church leader must strive to be culturally aware, adaptive, and responsive, ensuring that your teaching, what you are teaching, and initiatives align with your congregants' lived experiences and concerns. Do your messages that you so eloquently spend hours on studying and getting your 5-point messages to a point of just awesomeness? Is it relevant? Is it reaching the younger generation? Are you adapting? Are you responsive? Is it lining up with what they're dealing with in their life and what they're concerned with right now? This involves ongoing education, open dialogue with diverse community members. How diverse is your community? How diverse are the members within your church? And let me share this. Just because you have, and if you're a black church, you have one white family, one Asian family, one Mexican family, doesn't matter. If you just have one different ethnicity in your church, that does not make you a multicultural church. You're just a black church with one white family. You're just a white church with one black family. That doesn't make you multicultural. There has to be a willingness to innovate while staying grounded in core spiritual values. You have to meet the people where they are. Today's leaders, you as a leader must be willing to reassess all of those traditions and practices that you've been stuck on for 50 to 60 years to ensure that they remain meaningful and impactful in people's lives. Now, let me say this. There's nothing wrong with tradition. Tradition is good in its place. But if you're hung on the same traditions and practices that you've been doing for the past 50 to 60 years and nothing is working, that's a clue. Your traditions and practices need to be meaningful and practical, impactful in people's lives right now, today. Now, the second one is decline in membership. How many of you are experiencing decline in membership? How many of you have seen a decline in memberships? I just saw this week, I believe it was, an abandoned mega church. This church was huge and it's abandoned. Nobody home. And it's a result of declining membership. Holding on to outdated methods and beliefs may alienate your younger generations and newcomers who seek relevance and authenticity in their spiritual journey. Is there any relevance in your teaching and preaching? Is there any authenticity in your teaching and preaching? Because this is what the younger generations are looking for today. A lot of young generations today, they're not into that hand behind the ear and screaming and hollering and tuning up. A lot of them are coming to hear a good relative word. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting excited. Nothing wrong in tuning up. But is it relative to what's happening in that young person's life? Proverbs 29:18 warns us, where there is no revelation or where there's no vision, people cast off restraints or people perish. But check it. But blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. Religious communities risk dwindling memberships and influence. Without a clear vision, it's going to decline. You have to have a vision, a clear vision. Decline in membership is a pressing issue facing many churches today, many ministries today, reflecting broader trends and secularization and changing religious landscapes. Factors contributing to this decline include the rise of secularism, shifting social norms, and the perception of the church as irrelevant or unwelcoming to diverse populations. As I stated earlier, just because you have one different type of ethnicity in your church does not make you a multicultural church. The younger generations today, in particular, may feel disconnected from traditional religious practices, or they may even find themselves incompatible with their values and lifestyles. This is so important, what I'm saying here. You want to reach the younger generation? Then you need to look at some of your old religious traditional practices that you've been doing for the past 50 to 60 years. Internal church issues such as scandals, leadership failures, or lack of meaningful community engagement can further alienate potential and existing members. You are in danger of losing not only the new generation, but also those existing members. This decline impacts the vitality and the financial stability of congregations, and it also undermines the church's ability to fulfill its mission and serve its community effectively. It's important to have membership because as your membership grows, your financial status grows, and you need money in order to do other things within the community, to help the church, to help those that are in need. It's not just a stack paper in the bank, sitting on stacks and stacks of money in the bank. Do something with it. Set up some new programs. How important is that within your own community to help those that are in need? Now, to address this, churches need to foster a more inclusive, engaging, and relevant environment that speaks to contemporary issues, promotes authentic community, and demonstrates the practical impact of faith in everyday life. In all of this, embracing innovative approaches to worship, to outreach, and communication, this can help your church grow. It can help churches reconnect with their congregants. And it also can help in attracting new members, revitalizing their role in the modern world. This is key, y'all. You want new church growth? You want your old members to be revitalized? Then you need to work on innovative approaches in your worship service, in your outreach, in your in-reach, and your community. There has to be communication within the community, within the church, within the leadership. There has to be communication. Communication is key. The third one is resistance to change. Oh, how many of you listening and watching know about resistance to change? We've been doing it like this for 40 years. And how's that working for you? We've been doing this for the past 65 years. Well, how is that working for you? Apparently, it's not working. The Bible teaches the importance of being open to God's new work and leading. Isaiah 43:18 and 19 states, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" If the Bible tells you to do a new thing, if it tells you to forget the former things, especially if they're not working, Don't dwell on the past. A lot of people, they like to dwell on the past. They like to dig up a whole bunch of old treasure that's no longer treasure, especially some of the things that God has forgiven you from. But that's a whole nother podcast on that issue right there. Let me say this: clinging rigidly to old traditions can stifle the movement of the Spirit and inhibit growth and renewal within a faith community. You're clinging on to these old tradition, old practices. You're hanging on to them as tight as you can because you don't want to change. You are resisting the change that's happening within your church. The young people want this. The old people want that. Resistance to change is a significant challenge within many of the churches and communities today. Often rooted in a desire to preserve tradition and a fear of the unknown. That's the only reason why so many people today resist change, is because they're fearful of the unknown. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know who's going to do what. But that's the excitement of change. You don't know until you step out there and give it a try. There are a lot of people that are sitting down on talents because they're not given the chance to express themselves, because the old board don't want any change. This resistance can manifest in various ways, such as reluctance to adapt new technologies, hesitance to modernize worship practices. They don't want to bring in new music. They don't want to bring in new songs. They don't want to bring in new worship leaders. They don't want to bring in musicians because they don't want to pay the musicians. Or opposition to leadership styles and organizational structures. For some congregants, some of the members, change can threaten their spiritual identity and the continuity of their cherished rituals and customs. You are threatening their livelihood. You are threatening the way they used to do things, the way they are doing things for the past 50 years. Do you not know that this kind of mindset can create a stagnant environment where innovation is stifled and the church's ability to effectively engage with contemporary issues and younger generations is compromised? But I'm here to help y'all. To overcome resistance to change, church leaders, those of you listening and watching that are leaders, you must engage in open and empathetic dialogue. That is so important. Acknowledging the concerns of your members while clearly articulating the necessity and benefits of change. This involves building trust through transparency, demonstrating how proposed changes can align with the church's core values, and highlighting successful examples from other congregations. How are they doing it down the street if it's successful? If church membership growth is booming, what are they doing? Find out what they're doing different than you. Apparently something's working. If their membership is growing, things is happening within their community. Leaders can foster a culture of adaptability by encouraging small changes that allow members to acclimate to new ideas and practices gradually. When I moved into the area where I am now, I had to go through some serious acclimation because I wasn't used to the weather. I wasn't used to the surroundings. I wasn't used to the people. But by prioritizing education, inclusivity, and participation in decision making, you as a leader can create a more dynamic and responsive community, better equipped to fulfill its mission in a rapidly evolving world. Adaptability is important. Number 4, Spiritual stagnation. Man, it's not going to get any better, y'all. Spiritual stagnation. Just as Jesus criticized the Pharisees for their adherence to tradition over justice, mercy, and faithfulness in Matthew 23:23. And overemphasis on rituals and traditions can lead to spiritual stagnation. But I know that true worship is unrestricted by antiquated traditions or conventions. As Jesus instructed the woman at the well in John 4:24, it is grounded in spirit and in truth. Spiritual stagnation occurs when individuals or entire congregations experience a plateau in their spiritual growth, leading to apathy and disconnection from their faith. They've gotten to a point to where they cannot grow any further. This is their ceiling, stuck on a low plateau, just going nowhere. This stagnation can stem from various factors, such as a routine in uninspiring worship services. There is nothing more disappointing than an uninspiring worship service. Do you know how to move the Spirit of God? It's through worship. Do you know how to move certain things in your life? It's through worship. It's not only through praying. Praying is important, but you want to move God? Worship. Worship is a key ingredient to any service. If you have a good worship service, and I mean spirit-led worship service, not just sitting around waiting for the Spirit of God to move. No, you need to actively get involved in the Spirit moving. A lack of meaningful teaching or insufficient opportunities for personal growth development and community engagement, this all leads to stagnation. When people feel their spiritual needs are not being met or challenged, they may become disengaged. I've been disengaged many a day because it seems like there is no new nothing. Everything is the same, been the same for the last 40, 50 years. There is no change, no new membership, no new members. The old members are dying. The young members have grown up and moved away. And it's just the same old every single week. That means we've gotten to a plateau and we're unable to break the ceiling. When people feel their spiritual needs are not being met or challenged, they may be disengaged, which can result in decreased church attendance. People don't want to come to church. What they going to come to church for? They rather see a good, wholesome, spirit-filled, led worship church service on TV. They can get more feeling from that than sitting in a dry, dead church. There's a diminish of participation in church activities. And you know what this does? There's a weakening of personal faith practices, all because there is nothing new happening. Their needs aren't being met and they're not being challenged. Now, addressing spiritual stagnation requires intentional efforts by you as a church leader to reignite passion and commitment within your congregation. Yeah, you might say, well, it's not my responsibility. Well, then whose responsibility is it? This can be achieved by introducing diverse and dynamic worship experiences that resonate with contemporary life, providing a robust and relevant teaching that addresses real life issues, and fostering small group interactions where individuals can share and grow together in their faith journeys. I know that encouraging active involvement in service projects and community outreach and community inreach can help your members find purpose and see their faith in action. Give them something to do. Start something by creating an environment that nurtures continuous spiritual growth and it engages members in a meaningful way. Your church can combat spiritual stagnation and inspire a renewed sense of vitality and purpose within your community, within your church, within your home. Now, the fifth one, this is the last one, leadership transition. Recognizing when it's time to step down, to let go, or to retire from leadership roles within religious institutions, within any ministry, within any church is crucial for ensuring the continuity and fostering new leadership. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. You want to know about timing? There's a time for this, time for that. Read Ecclesiastes 3. Passing the torch to a new generation of leaders can breathe fresh life into a community and pave the way for continued growth and innovation. Here's something that I know that's very important. Leadership transition in a church setting can be a period of significant upheaval and uncertainty, impacting the stability and future directions of any congregation, any church, any ministry, any religious institution. This transition, whether due to retirement, relocation, or other reasons, can evoke mixed emotions among your members, including anxiety, resistance, and anticipation. There are so many people that are on edge when they start hearing leadership change. A smooth leadership transition is crucial for maintaining trust, continuity, and momentum within the church community. Differences in leadership styles, differences in leadership visions, differences in leadership approaches to ministry between ongoing and ingoing leaders often raise challenges. If not managed carefully, these differences can lead to conflict, misunderstandings, and divisions. People will just up and leave. That's where you have so many different denominations in the world today because someone didn't agree with this one and this one didn't agree with that one. And denomination, all that means is division. This is why we have so many divisions in the church today. Clear communication is essential to navigating a successful leadership transition. Your members need to be informed about the process, the reasons behind the change, and the reasons there's a new leader that's coming on board. And they need to know the new leader's qualities and vision. That new leader needs to hook on to the old vision and take that old vision into a new realm. Involving the members, involving the congregation in the transition process through surveys, meetings, and forums can alleviate concerns and foster a sense of ownership and inclusion. Let me say this. A structured transition plan that includes a period of overlap of mentorship between the outgoing and incoming leaders can provide continuity and stability. Let me say how important it is that supporting the new leader with adequate resources, mentorship, and opportunities to build relationships within the church can also ease the transition. Ultimately, a transparent and inclusive approach and a focus on shared goals and the values can help ensure a leadership transition that strengthens the church community, the church as a whole, and prepares it for future growth and success. Now, as I bring this podcast to a close, let me close with this. Imagine a scenario where an elderly pastor, let's call him Pastor John, has been leading a church for decades. Despite his advanced age and declining health, he adamantly refuses to step down or share leadership responsibilities. Now, while Pastor John's dedication to his ministry is admirable, his reluctance to transition leadership can have significant repercussions on the growth and vitality of the church. Firstly, Pastor John's refusal to step down may hinder the introduction of fresh perspectives and innovative ideas into the ministry. A younger, more dynamic leader could bring new energy, new visions, and strategies to engage with the evolving needs of the community, the evolving needs of the membership, the evolving needs of the people. By clinging to power, Pastor John may inadvertently stifle creativity and limit the church's ability to adapt to changing times. Not only that, but an aging leader's reluctant to step down can create a sense of stagnation within the congregation, within the membership. Members may become disheartened or frustrated by the need for new, innovative, or opportunities for growth. This could result in a decline in what we've talked about: attendance, diminished enthusiasm, and even disengagement from the church community as a whole. Also, an elderly pastor's refusal to step down can impede the development of emerging leaders within the congregation. Younger individuals with a passion for ministry may feel discouraged or overlooked if they see no opportunity for advancement. This is why so many young men strike out on their own, starting their own church. And this is where I say, you weren't sent, you just went. In Pastor John's case, many unintentionally discourage potential successors from stepping forward and taking on leadership roles by holding on to power is detrimental. Pastor John and the church leadership must recognize the importance of succession planning and the benefits of transitioning leadership to a younger, more innovative individual. This doesn't mean disregarding Pastor John's contributions or wisdom. Instead, it's about ensuring the continued growth and relevance of the ministry for future generations. By gracefully stepping aside and supporting the transition process, Pastor John can leave a lasting legacy where empowering the new generation or the next generation of leaders to carry the torch forward with vitality and vision. A final note here that is very fundamental. While honoring and preserving religious tradition is important, it's equally essential to discern when they no longer serve their intended purpose and inhibit growth. Embracing change, being open to new revelations, new visions, and knowing when to step aside are vital for ensuring the vibrancy and relevance of any religious community, any church, any ministry in the ever-changing landscape of faith. With that, I appreciate your time with me here today. Be sure to keep an eye out for the next podcast. That's all I have for you today. Tell a friend. And as I always say, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone else. Until next time, be blessed.